Again, as with last chapter, massive trigger warning for child abuse, homophobia, transphobia, trauma, and the like. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Chapter 8 of Hogwarts Bouquet, an AO3 fanfic by ElizabethEmerald. I am sorry I have been gone for so long. It's been a time. I had mononucleosis, and then I just had some terrible mental health stuff, and then I was planning on recording last week, and then I got a cold. So, finally, I am recording another chapter. Hopefully, it should be coming out more regularly now. Anyway, Chapter 8 is titled, Welcome to Hogwarts. Poppy walked Rose through the halls of Hogwarts. She continued the little impromptu tour, pointing to different interesting things around them. Rose seemed overjoyed. She stopped to talk to a few of the portraits, stunned that they could reply to her. Poppy couldn't help but smile at the genuine joy radiating from Rose as they walked. Sometimes she forgot how much first-year students loved the castle. And down that way is the dungeons, including the Slytherin common room and the potions classroom, Poppy said. They have dungeons here? Rose asked, her eyes wide. Well, they're called that at least. Don't worry. We don't actually lock children up in there. I'll take you down there to see more closely once I start to pick up potions for the year. What potions do you pick up? There's a bunch of potions involved with healing. You remember the Skelegro and the nutrient potions? Rose made a face that showed exactly how well she remembered the Skelegro potion. I brew a lot of the potions myself in the hospital wing, but some of them are either more complex or require more specialized equipment. The castle's resident potion manager, Professor Snape, brews those. Rose seemed to be carefully considering that. Poppy was again struck by how clever Rose was. She put so much thought into what was happening around her. So if potions are used in healing, then I should get very good at making them. I'll make sure to pay attention when I have classes with Professor Snape. Are you interested in pursuing healing? Yes, I want to help people just like you and Aunt Minnie do. Poppy pressed a hand to her heart. Rose had been hurt so badly, and yet she didn't want revenge. Instead, she wanted to help others like herself. She rapidly blinked back tears, not wanting to spoil the moment. Well, if you need any help on that path, just let me know. Aunt Minnie and I will do anything we can to help you reach your goals. Poppy knew her voice sounded a little choked. They had finally reached the exterior of the castle, and Rose's jaw dropped. Having entered the castle through the Floo network, she hadn't had the chance to actually see what the castle looked like. She spun in slow circles, trying to take in everything. Poppy could only watch with a growing smile on her face. Taking Rose away from the Dursleys had definitely been the right decision.
Hello, Madame Pomfrey,
a deep voice called. Rose squeaked and whirled, Posy immediately placing herself between her and where Hagrid was approaching. Hello, Hagrid, Poppy said, giving him a subtle gesture to keep his distance. She was watching Rose carefully, not wanting to cause a panic attack this soon after she had moved into her new home. Rose, this is Rubeus Hagrid, groundskeeper here at Hogwarts. Hagrid, this is Rose Pomfrey. Hagrid looked around a little awkwardly for a moment before sitting down on the grass, making himself shorter so he wasn't towering over Rose. He smiled at her and gave her a short wave. Posy stayed near Rose, but sniffed the air and seemed to be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Rose waved back, although her hands shook. Mr. Hagrid, Rose stuttered out. Her breathing had been a little fast after being surprised, but with Posy there, she was slowly calming down.
Oh, you can just call me Hagrid, lass,
Hagrid said.
That's a fine dog you've got there. What's her name?
This is Posy. She helps me, Rose said, looking more confident now she was talking about her familiar.
Well, isn't that grand?
Hogwarts said, a large smile splitting his face.
My dog, Fang, helps me too. He helps me with my groundskeeper duties, and whenever I need something buried, I know just the dog.
Rose smiled now. Poppy hid her own smile behind her hand. Some people were intimidated by Hagrid's size, but he really was such a big softy and had a great way with children. Can I meet Fang? Rose asked. I want Posy to have a friend here. I don't want her to be alone. Hagrid glanced at Poppy. The sorrow in Rose's voice was very telling. However, he didn't say anything. Instead, he put his fingers to his lips and blew a piercing whistle. After a few moments, they could hear all the thunderous barks as Fang approached. Rose tensed up again, but when Fang was closer, the dog started slobbering all over Hagrid, his tongue hanging out. Posy gave the other dog a few experimental sniffs, and then they were barking together. Fang seemed to want to run around, but however, Posy knew she was still working, and so just kept close to Rose's side. For her part, Rose's smile rose at the antics of the other dog, although she kept her fingers in Posy's fur. Fang tried to bounce up on Rose's shoulders to lick her face. Posy immediately unleashed a thunderous bark, her body fading to fog and mist as Fang recoiled. Hagrid leaned back, his eyebrows up, as Fang ran to his side, whimpering. As soon as Fang was away from Rose, Posy returned to her usual appearance.
That's a fine dog indeed,
Hagrid said.
If you need any help raising her or anything, I have a bit of experience raising magic dogs of all kinds.
Rose pressed her face to Posy's back briefly as she recovered from the shock of her dog changing again. But then she looked up and smiled. That'd be really nice, Hagrid, Rose said, her smile growing wider. After meeting Hagrid, Poppy finished the tour of the castle and returned to the hospital wing. Minerva hadn't returned yet, and Poppy wasn't sure if she even would tonight. The thought made her sad, as she had really loved being able to spend as much time with Minnie as she had been. It would be a shame to go back to pretending like they were coworkers and nothing more. She did still have work to do in order to prepare for the starting school year. There was always a rash of cold and flu cases when the students returned, and she had no intention of allowing her care to be anything less than usual. Rose followed her around for most of the day, always staying out of her way, and ready to hop on her feet and help out if asked. Poppy could see questions burning in Rose's mind, though she guessed that Rose wouldn't feel comfortable enough to interrupt her work to ask just yet. So to encourage Rose's curiosity and drive, Poppy took to explaining exactly what she was doing and why, with just about everything she did. This is Pep Rat Potion, Poppy said, gesturing to a large potion bottle. All these kids coming from all over the country bring with them a bunch of different gems, and with all those gems in one place, a bunch of students get sick during the first couple weeks of term. She glanced at Rose to make sure she was following, and was delighted by the bright look in her eyes. Pep Rat Potion cures the common cold and warms up the drinker. However, at full strength, it's more than most students actually need for the sniffles or other mild cases. In addition, it's unnecessary to have all these 6 students drinking from the same potion bottle. So Professor Snape brews me an extra large batch at full strength, and I pour that into these small bottles and dilute it in these bottles. A full bottle of Pep Rat Potion could easily make someone even sicker than they had been. The small vials, each with a cork ready, were the perfect measurement for most students and were much easier to distribute than the full bottle, and the diluted bottles worked well for any mild cases. Would you like to help me measure these out? Poppy asked. Rose immediately stood, nodding her head. I'm very good at measuring, she said. Aunt Petunia would be so upset if I wasted her expensive ingredients. Poppy grimaced, although carefully looking away, so that Rose wouldn't think it was aimed at her. Well, measuring is a very useful skill to have, especially when you start making your own potions, but don't worry about wasting any of the pepper up potion. If we accidentally spill, I can ask Severus to brew us some more. He usually has a couple of batches each fall no matter what, so it's not any extra work for him. Rose nodded and set to work with the large bottle of pepper up. She carefully measured out to make sure that there was the appropriate amount in all the smaller vials, including the ones that were to be diluted. Posy stood behind her, leaning some of her weight on the back of Rose's legs, so the girl would know her dog was there. Poppy almost felt like she had a sip of the pepper up herself with the warm feeling in her chest. She worked alongside Rose, corking and sealing the smaller vials, while directing her with the diluting process. Rose really did have a good hand when it came to measuring and pouring. It was a shame that it was a survival skill she had learned in order to avoid punishments from her relatives. Poppy made extra sure to encourage Rose and repeat often that she was doing a good job. To Poppy's endless joy, Minerva did in fact return to the hospital when her duties as deputy head were complete. Minnie seemed tired from her long day wrangling the teachers into form, including battling with Dumbledore about different topics. He was considering yet another Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and she had spent half the day shooting down candidates that she didn't feel were in any way qualified for the position. Minerva was glad to stretch out in Poppy's small sitting room in her chambers. Rose had gotten a blank scroll and a quill, and was working on writing up her own notes on the uses and dosing of pepper potion in her room. Poppy laid down at the open door to her room, her head on her crossed paws. No one would be able to get into her room without the dog knowing and alerting her mistress. Poppy gently kissed Minerva's chin while they told each other about their respective days. After I finished showing Rose around the school, we spent the day prepping potions for the start of term. Minnie, that girl is going to be amazing at potions by the time she gets to first year. She told me she wants to be a healer. Oh, well, I guess I'll have to try harder to show her how cool it is to be a transfiguration master, Minerva said, with a smile though her eyes were distant. Note for your thoughts? Poppy said softly after a brief moment of silence. Were you able to find any other information on that ritual you mentioned? No, I didn't have the time today, and it can't be done till she has her wand anyway. Why? Minerva glanced at Rose's door. She could see a sliver of the girl's back as she worked at her desk. It just seems odd to me. The Sirius Black would be interested in that ritual, and then do what he did, Minerva said. She kept her voice quiet so as not to attract Rose's attention. Why would he betray James and Lily if he had wanted to be a part of the family? Who knows why madmen do what they do, Poppy said, though there was a hesitance in her tone. It didn't make sense, but so much of what had happened in the war didn't make sense. There was only so much thoughtless violence simply because of one man's bigotry. The thought of this strangeness lingered in the heads of both witches. They went through what had become their nightly routine largely in silence, until Minerva and Poppy again fell asleep in each other's arms. Thank you for listening to Chapter 8 of Hogwarts Bouquet, a trans Harry Potter fanfic on AO3 by ElizabethEmerald. I hope to keep getting episodes out every Wednesday, but if that's not possible, it will have to be within the first 3 days of the week as I work the other 4 days. Thank you very much for listening. Have a wonderful day.